What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Sit Down Saturday, and today we're going to do the verses of the two Mirages, which is another one that I wanted to do. I told you we got a lot of verses coming these days. It's just the nature of the business. It is what it is. I don't control what's released. I wanted to take a look at this because I think that they're very comparable, but for different reasons, and I think that they're very successful for different reasons. I think that the Mirage from MMC is a very successful Studio Aux masterpiece-styled Mirage, and I think that the other one is very much the same for G1. I'm doing this the same day I'm doing the Beachcomber one, so I don't have any house cleaning to do. However, I planned on putting out a diorama video this past Sunday. I'm not sure if that happened or not. If it did, I just want to let you know that I've been receiving a lot of PMs and DMs and all that kind of emails, etc. about do I do commission work for the dioramas. The truth is I would be willing to, however, what I'm going to charge you because of how much time it takes to do one is going to be expensive, and you'd be better off just signing up for the Patreon where we go over the tutorials of how to do these at the $5 level, and it'll make you able to continue doing more and more and more. These dioramas are not about artistic talent. It's not about God-given artistic ability. It's about technique and perfecting, and not perfecting necessarily in my case, but learning and trying and attempting to master a skill. You can do it. It is very easy. I had shout out to Energon Addict. He was at my house one day for Skullfest, and he was like, man, I'm gonna commission you to do one of these. And I was like, dude, you can do it. And right there at Skullfest, he did a little piece, and it was just as good as anything else I had done. So it's very easy to do. You'd be better off signing up for the Patreon. But I will do it if it's just going to be expensive. Real quick, merch of the week is going to be the prints. Kind of the bread and butter of what we have here. They are 11 by 14 prints, so they are frame ready size. We have a ton of different designs, all of my work, and a portion of the proceeds go towards a gentleman, friend of mine that passed away from cancer this year, to his surviving family. There's Facebook links in my description, and domestically, one print costs about 15 bucks to 17 bucks, and then each additional print is just $10 tacked on to that. So if you're interested, hit me up. And I think that's all we had to get into, because like I said, it'll just be a longer house cleaning next week, so just get ready for that. Mentally prepare yourself. So with that being said, let's just get into it. Let's get ready to rumble. Time for some action.
Accessory-wise, they both come with the shoulder missile. They both come with the rifle. They both come with alternate head options. The MMC comes with the parachute, which is a pretty cool and kind of thing, nod to the G1, that thing from that episode, but it's a unique and interesting idea. I don't think it came with all the releases, but it came with mine. That's the only one I can judge, which is going to score a point for MMC.
Moving on to building materials, MMC has to take it in build because the TE came improperly built, and as a result, needed surgery in order to perform properly. That gives the MMC the advantage right off the bat. Hardware, neither of them use it. Materials-wise, about the same. Plastics, die-cast, sort of your standard fare for what we expect with third-party masterpiece. Rubber tires on both. Sculpt and paint is gonna be tricky for me, man. So let me say this, they both have a decent amount of paint on them. I think that the TE has more. They both are going for a particular sculpt look. However, I think the MMC has more. I prefer the MMC proportions. However, they're more heroic and far more Studio Oxy than what the TE is going for. So it's a hard one to judge. I'm just gonna have to give it to both. Looking at the head sculpts, I think that they're negligible, man. Like they're both really good. There's a lot more character, I think, in the MMC one, but that's not what we're here to judge. We're just here to judge a sculpt of a head that's supposed to be Mirage. I don't think that either of them is 100% accurate, but I don't think either of them is bad enough where you wouldn't recognize who it's supposed to be. So I think they both look good. But the TransforElement has the blue paint, and that's gonna take it. Looking at it from the side, same kind of deal. They make different decisions regarding the back of the head. Once again, I kind of prefer the MMC, but that's a subjective thing, so I'll tie it out sculpt-wise. Plus the rivets on the side of the helmet come through in both the profile and the front look, so just gotta give it to TE for the paint. Looking at the front view, sculpt-wise, I think it's negligible. They both have the details painted at the chest and collar. I like how the wheels show a bit more in the MMC, but I don't think that's fair to give them a point for that. But MMC is gonna take the point here for paint because of all the paint details at the front of the chest. From the side, I think it's a complete wash. They both show the tires in different ways. They both show the backs in different ways. I like that the MMC backpack sits a little higher, but they're already getting the point because of the paint on the chest, so not really worth mentioning. Moving on to the arms, sculpt-wise, I like the MMC line work in the shoulder, and I like the bit on the forearm. However, the TE white, I believe, is painted, so I'm gonna tie them out. Now, I know that the TE is not going for that with the line work, but sculpted detail has to matter in some regard. From the side, same exact deal, but for different reasons. I like the lack of the visible hole on the TransforElement. However, I
like the little sculpted detail on the hand with the MMC. And then the shoulder bit is kind of the same either way. So moving on to the pelvis and upper legs, kind of the same deal. However, I like that the hip skirts cover down to the thighs on the TE. They both have the bit sculpted onto the front of the pelvis. They both have some line work on the thighs. The TE is painted, so it's getting the nod. From the side, I like that the Mastermind Creations covers down on the joint and has a bit more sculpted detail. So from the side, the MMC gets the nod, which is going to tie him out again. Moving on to the lower legs, it's no question here that the TE is cleaner. However, I don't think it's the MMC's objective here to be cleaner. But sculpt work wise, I've got to give it to TE because it manages to hide all of the engineering a lot better where the MMC does not. However, paint wise, the MMC is far better painted with more details, more kind of clever bits going on. So deco wise, it takes it, which ties them out from the front. And from the side, I prefer the MMC, mainly due to the Goodyear paint. Sculpt work wise, they're about equal. So the extra bit of paint there, and I love it, is gonna push them over the edge. And from the back, in my opinion, is kind of negligible. I like that the backpack is much more tight and condensed on the MMC. I like the back of the feet on the TE. I like the back of the calves on the MMC. I like the back of the arms on the TE. I like the back paint work on the MMC better. However, there's more on the TE. So I gotta tie him out for that also. Which brings us to a pretty tight game. TransforElement takes the head for the paint. MMC takes the torso and lower legs for the paint. Sculpt wise, I give a lot of it to MMC. Paint wise, I give a lot of it to TE, and that ends up canceling a lot of it out. Namely, arms, hips, thighs, back, and front. Let's move into articulation. Ball peg from the neck into the head, and then a hinge at the neck. That gets you up to there, down a fair bit, swivel, confused dog look. The TE head is a ball peg with a hinge that comes completely forward, which gets you far more down, the full range up, the swivel, and confused dog look. Waist swivel, ab crunch. Limited, but there. No waist swivel, fuller ab crunch, which gives you a little bit of the swivel. And depending on which ab crunch you go with, because it's got two different options basically. But the waist swivel's not there without it. Shoulders. We have a hinge inside that brings the shoulder up, plus the universal that gets you further up for almost the full run. In addition to that, you have the swivel 360 around, and you have a butterfly joint forward and a little bit back, to be honest. Straight universal, out to 90 degrees, swivel around. Bicep swivel, bicep swivel. Double jointed elbow that almost gets you the full run. Double jointed elbow for the full run. Wrist swivel, a bit of a hinge up and down. The fingers are on a base pin knuckle with the index finger independently articulated. Wrist swivel, no hinge up, down, or in, out. Fingers on a base pin knuckle with the index finger individually articulated, and the thumb is on an independent hinge as well. Universals for hips get you far out to the side, pretty much the full Monty forward and back. Universals for hips get you far out to the side, less than the full Monty for forward and back, but more than you would ever need. Thigh swivel, thigh swivel. Double jointed knee gets you past 90 degrees. Double jointed knee gets you far past 90 degrees. A toe tilt that acts as an ankle that gets you an ankle tilt down, a bit up, and a full rocker. A toe tilt that acts as an ankle that gets you an ankle tilt down, nothing up, and a full rocker. Which brings us to our final score. TransforElement takes it for the head for the greater range down that's also more believable. MMC takes the shoulders by a long shot, both in vertical motion and the butterfly. TransforElement takes the elbow for the full run, whereas MMC gets the wrist for the upward movement. TransforElement gets a greater range at the knee, but MMC gets a greater range at the ankle. And they tie at the bicep, hands, torso, hips, thighs. MMC squeezed that hand in there. I didn't think they were going to get it. I forgot they had that little thumb hinge. Scale-wise, since these guys are pretty much the same size, it's really hard to pick a winner here. But the TE is slightly taller, and you could make the argument that that's too tall, but it's
such a fine hair to want to split.
In regards to their transformations, they both struggle at different points, and ironically, they both struggle at the opposite point. So the transform element, the bottom half, is the part that's kind of a nightmare to deal with. Plus, because it comes misassembled, it can even cause breakage. Whereas the MMC, it's kind of the upper half that has a struggle getting the kind of neck flap and chest piece and all that to collapse. It's one of those things where each one of them makes sacrifices in different areas, and as a result, each one of them has an element, you might even say transform element, of their transformation that causes some headache, heartache, headache, whatever you want to say. But neither of them are the most frustrating that you'll encounter, but I'm not sure I'd classify either of them as especially fun either. However, I do think the upper body of the transform element's pretty fun. I do think the lower body of the MMC is pretty fun, so to speak. The alt mode is the one where I think MMC really steals the show. The only issue the MMC one had was when you pressed on the front of the hood, it kind of pushed down on the tires and you'd have to reset it kind of. But the way that the tires moved, the amount of paint that comes through, the translucent plastic for the windshield, the seatbelt piece, like all of the little details, the red line work paint, the 26, all of the details that come through, they come through specifically on the MMC and do not come through on the transform element. The Goodyear, everything works in alt mode for the MMC. Whereas the transform element does kind of a good enough job of getting it right, but it doesn't have any flash, it doesn't have any pizzazz, it doesn't have any of the transform element, sorry, all right, enough of that. It doesn't have any of the elements that make it over the top and a contender to really mess with what MMC was able to do here.
All right, do you care which one of these is better?
I do not.
Which one looks better?
No, I think I like this one better.
Okay, and pick them up. Which one feels better?
I guess if I had to pick one, I'd pick the same one.
Okay. All right, Jana, do you care which one of these is better?
Not really.
Can you tell me which one looks better?
This one.
All right, and can you tell me which one feels better?
Probably this one.
Okay. Selena, do you care which one of these is better?
No.
Which one looks better?
That one.
And pick them up.
That one.
Okay. Which one do you think looks better?
I think this one.
This one?
Mhm.
Okay. And feel them. Which one feels better?
I think that one.
This one feels better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
So they tie in gimmicks because neither of them really have them. They tie in materials because they both use rubber tires. They both have die cast. They both have plastic. They tie in hardware because neither of them have any. They tie in articulation because I'm surprised. They tie in scale because I'm being lenient, but I feel like if I was really holding them to the fire, MMC would win that. And they tie in transformation because MMC does the lower body better and transform element does the upper body better. MMC takes accessories, build because it came assembled correctly, sculpt and alt mode, while transform element takes paint, presence, accuracy, and price because I've seen it go for as low as $70 on some retail places, which brings us to a total score of a tie, which may be a first here for MMC and transform element.
I'm not sure if that's the first tie here or not, but I think it is kind of well deserved, and I think that it's kind of on the money. It actually makes me feel a bit better about my scoring process because I was like, man, I feel like these are equal but different. You know what I mean? Like for different reasons. I think that both are really capturing and successful at doing what they're trying to do, and what they're trying to do is not the same thing. But I also think it's worth noting just how ahead of its time that MMC Sphinx was. That it's still contending with a modern day competitor. It still holds up. It's still a strong release. And it should be noted just how long ago that thing came out and the fact that it's still holding up and that we should hold it in a high regard for what it has been able to do. So shout out to them. That's always been one of my favorite pieces. So with that being said, I'll be back next week. Like I said, it's going to be probably a heavier house cleaning episode, but I will be back. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.